Okay, hello and welcome to the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy Personal Fitness Industry Interview. I am Elyse Wagner. I'm the co-founder and chief wellness officer for the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And if you are wondering what additional impact that you can make as someone who works in the personal fitness industry, or what program would be the best fit for you to continue your learning and how to decide, or maybe you're curious how you can incorporate coaching into your current fitness profession, you are in the right place. In this video, you're going to be hearing from a panel of two Functional Medicine Coaching Academy graduates who have a personal fitness background and are currently working in the industry and or health coaching. So thank you so much for joining us today. We have Ben Johnson, who lives in Belleville, Canada, and is a functional medicine certified health coach and personal trainer. He graduated from FMCA in February of 2021. A passionate advocate of the transformative power of health and wellness literacy, he has invested relentlessly in his own education. With more than 20 professional certifications to his name, he's an eager student and accomplished communicator. Catalyzed by the sudden loss of his father to cancer, Ben has more recently focused his studies in gut health and autoimmunity. He believes people make good choices when they've got access to good information. He's determined to be an advocate of functional health principles and an agent of change to a health and medical system that can and should serve all of us better. Thank you for being here with us, Ben. Born and raised in Vienna, Austria, Natasha Demner now lives in upstate New York. She has spent over 20 years dealing in 20th century and antique jewelry and creating and selling her own designs. In 2009, Natasha completed her 500-hour RYT training at Ishta Yoga in New York City, together with a prenatal yoga teacher training. Today, she combines her yoga profession with being a functional medicine certified health coach. It was a diagnosis of Hashimoto and shortly after RA, which inspired profound lifestyle changes and piqued a keen interest in functional medicine paired with mind-body modalities. Natasha graduated from FMCA in February of 2020, 2 weeks after being diagnosed with breast cancer. After a double mastectomy and chemo, she is now cancer-free and thriving. Natasha is a mama to 2 boys, a cat, and 6 chickens, loves to garden, cook, spend time outdoors, and practice and teach yoga and mindfulness. She believes deeply in the power of community, the healing potential of food as medicine, and that taking care of one's health is a privilege, not a chore. I couldn't agree more. And thank you so much to both of you for being with us here today. So let's dig into some questions. So we'll start with Ben first. Can you share a little bit about what brought you into the personal fitness industry in the first place? And then what brought you into coaching?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And it's such a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for that lovely introduction. So I got into personal training about 12 years ago. I had been competing as an amateur martial artist. I was a Muay Thai kickboxer, and I had a little bit of success in that arena, but I could tell that that probably wasn't going to be the course of my career. I want to get beat up all the time. And I found coaching other people really appealing. So I got an opportunity at kind of a big box gym. There's a chain here in Canada called Good Life Fitness. And that was my first entry into fitness. And very quickly, I found out that I really liked working with other people. But I also started to become aware of my own limitations. At that time, really there was, and maybe this is still the case, a very kind of heavy bodybuilding paradigm. So, it didn't matter who I was dealing with as a rookie trainer, whether it was like a senior citizen or a teenager. I was like, hey, it's arm day, it's leg day. And I suddenly became aware of my own limitations. And I started to realize that as I was working with general population, there's just an incredible diversity of needs. Not everyone just wanted to look, great in a swimsuit or something like that. but people were dealing with all kinds of array of issues, autoimmune issues that I'd never even heard of or considered. And it became urgent to me to start to get educated so I could go beyond just being enthusiastic, but really start to be effective. And so I started consuming lots of education. It's one of the things I love about being a personal trainer is you can really design your own education. There's weekend courses and week-long courses and year-long courses. And I really feasted on that. And, as I got better as a personal trainer, I was still painfully aware of, my limitations again, because I was dealing with, women with postmenopause or men with, autoimmune issues or all these kinds of things that I wasn't literate in as a personal trainer. And there wasn't a course or a book that I can consume. And then finally, my father became ill and I was dealing with colon cancer. And again, I felt myself disarmed, and really frustrated that there wasn't an exercise to address what he was going through. And it was in researching what he was going through that I first was introduced to this term functional medicine. And I was fascinated by that and then frustrated by the care that he received. He ultimately passed away within a couple months. I was devastated, and it really altered the course of my life as well as my career. And just this idea of whole body wellness and understanding people as a complete person and system, not just as a cumulative set of symptoms, that just resonated with me so strongly. And sure enough, I found FMCA, and I won't tell my whole story all at once, but that's kind of the course of things.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like you've got a really powerful, meaningful why, that drove you just further into your studies. And perhaps you might have a strength, a love of learning, just a hunch.
That's my top strength. Yeah, you sniffed it out. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing. And Natasha, how about you? What got you into yoga, and then what got you into functional medicine coaching ultimately?
So what got me into yoga was just my own practice, that there was no other place where I was at peace and as much as I was when I was on my mat. And I lived in New York City for many years, very hectic, wonderful place to be, but very hectic and a very intense city to live in. So I really found myself drawn to my mat and to combining the breath with the postures, the asana, and just kind of coming, connecting. It was, for me, it was the best way to connect. And so I just fell into, I had this idea to do a 200-hour teacher training, and then I loved it so much I did another 300 hours. And I only really did it for me at the time. I didn't know if I was going to end up teaching, but then I did start to teach, and it was just so rewarding. I felt like I could really make a difference, I could make people would walk in one way and they would walk out calm and relaxed and in touch with themselves. And it was so powerful. It was really the first time I could really be of service like that. So I was very drawn to that, and that gave me a lot of, just made me so happy. And then the functional medicine and the coaching, was because I did get sick. I did get, various autoimmune diseases. And I didn't want to go the medication route. I ran away from, I am on thyroid medication, but I ran away from the rheumatologist very fast. And I just dug deeper and thought, there must be more that I can do. And that's how I found functional medicine and a wonderful functional doctor. And I just started digging and learning. And then I worked with a coach myself who helped me really shift. I did eventually move away from the city, and I moved upstate New York, to a wonderful, very rural place. And at that time I was working with a coach was a childhood friend of mine in Austria, who comes from a health coaching background, but is now a life coach. And just going through this process, the coaching process with him, really empowered me to make these huge shifts in my life, in my lifestyle, in how I viewed my health, in my career. It really gave me that confidence, and in working with him, it just became more and more clear that that's something I want to do too, and I want to help people with. And then I came across FMCA somewhere in that rabbit hole, online, and I'm so happy I did. It changed everything for me. It was that year of training was extremely powerful for me, and I'm so happy I did.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing. And I want to just underscore or highlight a theme that I'm hearing is, and we hear this from prospective students all the time and alums, is that they found functional medicine through either their own personal journey or a journey that a family member or a close friend walked. And there's this passion and thread of wanting to just serve others and help others. And so I acknowledge that in both of you, and thank you for your journeys that you both have walked and that have brought you here. So what's made you really choose FMCA? There are so many programs. I think, you had shared, Ben, earlier, there's a lot of different personal training programs out there. I'm sure there's a lot of yoga instructor training programs. There's a lot of health coaching programs, let's face it. So what was unique or different that really made you choose FMCA over all the other programs? And Natasha, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I believe in life. From my experience, things kind of come to you and then all of a sudden, but what really was compelling for me was, that strong functional medicine foundation, and the positive psychology, and that really the focus on the coaching. I looked at the time at other programs as well, and what I really found so compelling about the FMCA was that focus on, the coaching process, and combined with the functional medicine. So, and then, I spoke to one of the administrators who ended up being my cohort facilitator, and so who I then worked with for the whole year, and she just broke it down so wonderfully for me that it was just right.
Thank you for sharing. And Ben, how about you?
Well, for me, so I'd reached that kind of crossroads in my career. My dad had passed away, and I was now aware that there was this huge area of learning that I wanted to participate in, and better understand functional medicine. And I considered going to naturopathic school, and I was trying to find what are the routes that I can kind of navigate this space that I've just discovered. And I was aware of a colleague of mine that was going through FMCA, I believe in, I think it was end of 2019 or early 2020. I think it was 2019. And so I had asked some questions because, what really stood out was that functional medicine term. And I was like, wow, I really want to know more about this. So I was asking her, and she just had glowing reviews, and said, it changed her business and it changed her life. And initially I thought, well, maybe I'll go to naturopathic school and it'd be fun to be Dr. Ben, but it was a huge commitment, right? It's 4 years. It would have changed my ability to work. I would have been forced to move cities, et cetera. So the first thing was the accessibility. I felt like, wow, this is something that I can still work. I can still, maintain my life and grow in this area. And in some ways I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. So, there's a level of intuition, I think also, where it just felt right. And I think the last thing kind of on the logic side was, I thought my impression was that FMCA was just, it had a kind of prestigious status with its association with the Institute of Functional Medicine. And So even not really knowing everything about the space and not knowing how to evaluate everything, it just seemed to fit, and then I was just blown away once I was involved in the program. It was better than I had ever even anticipated.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that both of you have had really positive experiences, and it was even more than what you were expecting. So thank you for sharing. And can we talk a little bit about, you've gone through the program. So what does real life really look like after the program? And how are you kind of weaving in all of your passions and your knowledge? And what does that look like? I know we get a lot of questions about like, okay, that's great, I'm going to go through the program, but then what? So can you speak to that a little bit? And Ben, we'll start off with you.
So real life, I mean, we're just it's midway through 2021. Everyone's aware of how bizarre and challenging the last year was. Where I am, we're still experiencing lockdowns and stuff like that. So there's a real challenge for me as a personal trainer, which normally I'm right in front of people. So the FMCA program gave me a whole new avenue to service my clients. I suddenly was able, in kind of this crisis moment in my business, like, will I even be able to continue being a personal trainer? Do I have to veer off and find something else? So real life, it just allowed me to actually meet people in this kind of changed moment in history and offer a whole new level of service. There's people that have been longtime clients of mine that are now also coaching clients, and I'm meeting them in a totally new way. People that I trained with for some time and already had a close relationship. And now there's this whole new layer to my interaction with them. And then there's also new clients, new business, new interactions where people are reaching me in a coaching capacity where they might not have as a personal trainer or kind of fitness expert. So it's given me a new toolkit in a moment of change.
Yeah, I love how you say that. It's a new toolkit, and it's also an opportunity for growth, it sounds like, as well, in a time that was and still is, kind of a little bit unknown, right? But you were still able to utilize coaching and even go beyond your, where you're at, where you're living, because of course you can coach internationally. So you don't really have any walls or state or borders to stay within. So
yeah, it couldn't have been more perfect. It was so valuable.
Thank you, Ben. Natasha, how about you?
I agree with Ben about the accessibility and being able to coach. I live in a very rural place in a tiny town, and I can work from home. All I need is a computer, and that's really wonderful for me. I started before the beginning of COVID, when I was still doing my course. I started a group coaching program in my yoga studio where I teach, and my local gym. And it was just wonderful. It just started, it was basically, it was a 4-week course of how to eliminate inflammatory and toxic things from our lives and how to introduce deeply nourishing things. And it started with a group of 8 people, the first one we did. And we would meet once a week. And it was wonderful because they were all part of the same community, and we would still meet at the gym. And I've really seen profound changes in people and profound just change, real change. So the first one we did in person, and since then I've done a couple of them on Zoom, still, through my yoga studio, and that's really how I started out, before I finished my training. And I'm a great believer in group coaching. I think there's, community is just such a wonderful thing, and yeah, that's how it started for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like you were able to impact a group of people profoundly in a short amount of time.
Yes.
Pretty short amount of time. You said 4 weeks. So that's wonderful. And I also wanted to highlight, it sounds like you started to do some coaching while you were in the program, which is wonderful. And it's a great opportunity. As soon as you start feeling confident and ready to go, you can start coaching. And so I wonder if we can go just a little bit deeper. It sounds like, Ben, you've done some one-on-one coaching, and then Natasha, you're doing some group coaching. What are some other ways that you're using the training and your certification with your clients? And if we could just add on as well, what are, one or two benefits or results that you are seeing from adding in the coaching as well? And Natasha, would you like to start us off?
Yes, for me, it's a little bit, I coach a little bit more now than I teach yoga, but for me, it's very much about integrating the yoga and the breath work into the coaching. And because of COVID, there wasn't a lot of, in-person one-on-one teaching in the same space. So I've focused more on the coaching. And I find that, my background, my yoga background, yoga, meditation, mind body background is just extremely helpful because it brings people, my clients, straight there to the point, I start each one of my sessions with some deep breath work. And I find that it's such a useful tool for me to have. So the two of them really go hand in hand and they work very well together. And on the other hand, the exposure that I get from, the yoga studio, the gym where I teach, where it's all community and people, like you coach one person and then, it really helps.
Love that. Beautiful pairing. And I think, the word that's coming up that I'm hearing a lot is community. And we change together, which is beautiful as well. So thank you, Natasha. And Ben, how about you?
So for me, the coaching is, and I'm looking forward to getting into some group coaching. I'm starting to set that up for later this year. I've been mostly working with people one-on-one. And for me, it was humbling, I think, because I feel pretty skilled as a personal trainer, and I like to think I'm pretty good at what I do. And there's just so many stories already, just in a matter of months since graduation. So I can think of a client experiencing chronic back pain, and we're doing all the right exercises, and they're getting some improvement, but the back pain kept returning, and I suspected that they had some chronic gut inflammation. And so sure enough, I start to ask some different kind of questions. We use some of the tools that are introduced through the FMCA program, like a timeline and a matrix, and started looking at just kind of going beyond, okay, you're having this specific symptom and you've seen a chiro and you've seen all these different specialists to try and address the symptom, but we're not really seeing a change. FMCA gave me the ability to kind of pull back, look at the entire person. They start connecting their own dots. And then sure enough, when we started to address other elements of their life, in particular, how they're eating, some of the breathing practice, not just looking at them like a person with pain, suddenly they're free of this back pain. And like, I was really hitting a wall as a personal trainer. I was kind of out of tools, which is frustrating for me and also obviously frustrating for them. And then it's not great for business either. You really want to deliver for people. And then suddenly that person has a huge breakthrough because of FMCA principles. And then not only are they pleased, I'm elated. And then that's also leading to referrals and other things. And there's a bunch of stories like that. I can think of one client who I'd already been training for about 3 years, right? So this is a person I have a close relationship. We have a friendship outside of training. She's a senior, lives alone. So our relationship's like really, really important. And, there's someone I felt like I knew really, really well. And she kind of alluded to some other issues going on. I said, well, listen, I've just graduated. I'd love to try out some of this stuff. Why don't we do a couple sessions? And sure enough, it was only through the coaching process that she finally was we created a space where she started to share some things that were going on in her health that she had never shared with me in this other capacity. And this is someone, again, that I felt like I was really, really close with. So sure enough, again, we used some functional medicine principles. She decided to deploy an elimination diet. Huge changes osteoarthritis, pain changes, huge changes to her digestion, and then ultimately some other elements of her life and her autonomy that just transformed. And again, had it not been for FMCA, I just would not have been able to access those kinds of results and even those questions. So yeah, it's been remarkable. I don't know how well I answered your question, but it just added a whole new layer of value and depth to my relationships with clients. And it's just been really remarkable.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. I think the stories are super impactful. And certainly the coach approach and the way that we train our coaches and how to utilize some of the tools. And some of the tools are just questions to really open up and peel back the onion to get to the core, the root of what's happening. So I'm so delighted to hear that you're able to actually implement and utilize these tools on a daily basis with, yourself, with your colleagues, with your clients and who you're working with. So that's just wonderful. And thank you both for sharing. And one last question. So if you were to impart a piece of encouragement or share a piece of wisdom with a prospective student, what is one or two things that you'd like to share with that person? And I'll start with you, Natasha.
I would say, take a deep breath and really connect with your intuition. And if this feels like something that you want to be doing, just do it, because you will learn so much about yourself in this process, and you will get so many tools that will be just enrich your work, your life, your relationships, tools that you can use in really every walks of life, and I got goosebumps when I heard Ben talk, because it really it's powerful stuff that we learn, and I use it and I apply it daily with my yoga clients, with my coaching clients, but also in my immediate circle with my own health. It's just brought a lot of value to my life.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Ben, how about you?
Well, first of all, I'll say I really resonate with what Natasha shared. It's had a huge impact on my personal health. I think I'll try and add a different bit of advice. I would say for someone that's just learning about this, maybe you're like me and you don't have as many reference points for what functional medicine is or why this academy or that program or whatever. I think what I'd share with you is you can really trust FMCA. The people involved and the leadership involved, the pacing of the course, the tools that are offered, they make this so accessible. So I don't know where, a person listening to this is at. Maybe you're busy, maybe you're overwrought, maybe your own health is at issue. I would say that FMCA as a institution, and then the cohort that I was involved in, the administration that I dealt with, some of the challenges that came up in my life as I went through the course, I was really able to count on the academy to support me and have my back and to help me out. And when I fell behind, other students were there for me. So it's from the culture to the content, you can trust this program. And that's what I would want to share.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that means a lot. And I just have to say thank you to Ben and Natasha for sharing your wisdom. We loved hearing from you. And I know that the words and stories that you shared are certainly impactful. And now for those of you who are watching, we'd love to hear from you. And specifically, what is one insight or an aha moment or a takeaway that you learned today? And maybe you're watching this and you're leaving with more questions, or you're really curious about, gosh, how can I take this further? What is this going to mean in my life? So either way, if you want to be a part of this growing movement, there is absolutely a place for you at FMCA. And we encourage you to reach out. You can head over to functionalmedicinecoaching.org/about/contact, where you can call or you can email us. And I just want you to know that Like Ben said, we are here to support you wherever you're at and figure out what your next steps might be. So please get in touch. And thank you so much for watching and listening and participating. And Ben and Natasha, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and encouragements as well. Bye now.